the science of charisma. Let's break down charisma into a couple key elements. First is psychology. Decades of research really shows us that people read charisma incredibly quickly. We determine it in others in kind of these thin slices of speech and nonverbal behavior. And really those snap judgments are what are going to predict who we consider to be a leader in a situation. So things that we look for are things like vocal cues. We systematically bias leadership kind of towards people who are going to have those verbal cues of real, true charisma. And there's also nonverbal cues. We're looking at things like eye contact. Are they facing us? Are they forward leaning? Do they have fluent speech? So what this is going to do is going to increase our ability to like that person, to trust them. And now let's get into the neuroscience of it. So the first is neural coupling. The speaker and the listener's brain are going to actively synchronize together over time, being on the same wavelength or feeling good vibes. Stronger coupling is going to predict a better understanding of the person who's communicating with and a deeper connection. Number two is social reward systems. Things like direct gaze and attractiveness activate a place in our brain called the ventral striatum. And this is going to help to stimulate dopaminergic responses, making certain interactions literally feel rewarding and attention-worthy. So broader interpersonal neuroscience really shows us that brain-to-brain synchronicity in natural settings is going to relate to our ability to engage and to really learn in a deep way. I think this begs a question for us, which is, how can we cultivate greater charisma in ourselves? The first thing I want you to think about is something called context discipline. Charisma is going to be most potent when the task, identity, and stakes are all in alignment within ourselves. And this is not some kind of universal solvent, but if you can know when to switch analytical clarity over to true artistic presence, you can really start to transform your ability to cultivate charisma in your day-to-day life. There's been some interesting research done on the nonverbal behaviors. Some of this research was done by Antonakis and Finley in 2001 throughout 2011, and they basically established these key descriptors of somebody who is in a charismatic state. So they're going to be more likely to use metaphors and analogies. They might use stories and anecdotes. You're going to see a lot more contrasts, rhetorical questions, three-part lists, moral conviction of statements, an ability to really reflect group sentiments, setting ambitious goals with confidence. You may have noticed that everything I just mentioned were symptoms of charisma, but what is the true underlying element that sits underneath charisma and that we can stimulate in ourselves to create these symptoms? I can think of nothing better to sum this up than something Chase developed in NCI called the NCI Authority Triangle. At its root, charisma, I think, is a byproduct of confidence and authority as a whole, but it's specifically going to be mostly connected to things like our ability to cultivate true enjoyment and gratitude on the internal side of that triangle. So our ability to not just pretend, but to really feel enjoyment and gratitude throughout our day-to-day life is going to play a reflection of our ability to cultivate charisma in our communication. On an even deeper level, I think charisma is going to be related to your relationship with your ego, your fear of social judgment, and your ability to be fully present and focus on connection rather than performance. Your ability to not need something from other people, whether that be their assurances, whether that be their approval, whether that be that they think you're smart or that you're making a really big impact. You want to draw that from deep inside of yourself. I can be fully present and fully grounded in connection, but if I need something from you, If I'm trying to fill something inside of myself from your emotions, then it is going to be, take it from me, incredibly, incredibly exhausting. And I think you're still going to miss out on some aspect of true charisma if you're not able to fully let go, open yourself up to that fear of social judgment, and really be able to help people be grounded in the idea of helping others and of being fully connected, but at the same time do so from a place of not needing something from anybody. The number one thing that I think almost all training in the world, whether it be influence training or management training or any other kind of training that you see in relation to influence, there's one thing that they miss, and that's that the effectiveness of influence is going to be much more defined by the person who is talking rather than what they're saying. So in other words, who you are matters more than what you say. Your authority and confidence is really, at the end of the day, what defines who you are in terms of our communication and our outward communication. And I don't mean authority in terms of hierarchical position. I mean your authority over yourself.